everyone, welcome to Biology with MJ. This is MJ, your enthusiastic guide. Today we are going to study about the topic Taxonomic Aids from the chapter Living World. Now, since NEET has not released any official notification yet regarding the removal of certain topics from the syllabus, so we will be covering everything for now. Okay, so whether you're a biology student, a nature enthusiast, or simply curious about the wonders of the living world, this video is packed with insights and knowledge. Okay, so we will be covering everything about taxonomic aids from A to Z. So rest assured, all of your confusions regarding this topic will be sorted by the end of this video. This topic is divided into two videos. But before beginning the video, remember to like, comment, and share this video with your fellow biology enthusiasts. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and turn on the notifications so you never miss an update. Now let's get started with part 1 of understanding taxonomic aids. Do not forget to follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and Telegram so that you do not miss any update. Okay, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Let's begin the video. So, taxonomic studies. What are taxonomic studies? All the studies related to taxonomy are taxonomic studies. Okay, the systematic study of diverse organisms is beneficial for humankind. Okay, why are systematic studies done? Why do we study the relationships between various organisms? Because studying the relationships between various kinds of organisms, that is diverse organisms, okay, it is beneficial for humankind. Now you must be wondering, how is it beneficial for humankind? So the systematic study of diverse organisms is beneficial for humans because it helps them gain knowledge about the organisms that are useful in agriculture. Okay, they would find out the organisms. In agriculture, plants are involved. Okay, so they will find out the crops which would produce the highest amount of yield or which would produce the maximum amount of yield in agriculture. Okay, so they will choose those kinds of crops that would give them more benefits. Okay, so that is how the study of crops and plants is helping humankind in agriculture. It also helps them in forestry. For example, choosing those trees whose wood is more durable, okay, has more strength. So that is how it is useful in agriculture, in forestry, I'm sorry. If we talk about industries, the systematic study is also helpful in industries. For example, in clothes industry, if we use the fur of certain organisms, we use the leather of certain we generate leather from the skin of certain organisms. So this is how in industries also the study of organisms is beneficial. Okay, then in general, about knowing the bioresources that are present on the earth, in gaining the knowledge about different kinds of bioresources that exist on earth, the systematic study of diverse organisms is also helping humankind in gaining knowledge about that. Okay, systematic study is what? Studying of the relationships between different kinds of organisms. How are they related to each other? What is their evolutionary relationship? Okay. Now, how are these taxonomic studies done? You must be wondering. So, first of all, the actual specimens need to be collected. Okay, the beginning of any taxonomic study is to first collect the specimen. Okay, then after collecting the specimen, their identification and classification needs to be done correctly. So correct classification and identification of organisms is the next step. And how is identification done? It requires extensive laboratory studies and field studies. We'll need to properly observe the organism's morphology, not only morphology, its internal structure also, its anatomy. Okay, how we would need to observe the internal structure of the cell, the developmental stages of that organism. Everything we would need to study around that organism in order to identify it and then classify it. Now, what are the benefits of taxonomic studies? So, the taxonomic studies, they are the fundamental, it is the fundamental and morphological study of different living organisms. Okay, it helps us in studying their morphology. The fundamental study is what? Studying their morphology. So taxonomic studies are helping us in studying the morphology or the fundamental of different living organisms. It aids in their systematic study. We would find out the relationships between different kinds of organisms, who are more related to each other, who are less related to each other. Okay, how did they come about in existence? Who came first? Okay, information gathered is stored with specimens for future studies, and whatever information we would gather about different specimens, we store that information for future studies. So it also creates with us a repository of information. Okay, that is a storage place of all the information that we gather about different kinds of specimens. We can store it for future use, so that in future somebody comes around a similar kind of plant, for example, that is unknown to them, but it has already been discovered by scientists and it has already been identified and classified. So the person can refer to that data in order to identify this organism. कि okay, this plant is, for example, this plant is Mangifera indica. Okay, by comparing the characteristics of this plant in front of him with the previously known characteristics of the plant that has already been identified, the scientist or the person would be able to arrive to a conclusion, okay, that this plant is Mangifera indica. Now, a quick quiz question. Taxonomic study of a newly discovered organism is done by newly discovered organism we are talking about. So option A is by identifying it only. No. Identification is not enough. Gathering information about its habitat and habit only. No, that is also incomplete information. Collecting its actual specimen and then identifying and classifying it. This option is correct. Okay, option number C is correct. Studying previously recorded information about various other organisms. This is also incorrect because this is a newly discovered organism. So the taxonomic study, what are the steps of taxonomic studies? The first step is collecting the actual specimen. This is the first step. Then comes correct identification and classification. Okay. So the basic of any taxonomic study is first collecting the actual specimen, whether it is an unknown organism or already known organism which we have not identified yet. First collecting its actual specimen is the first step, and then we identify and classify it. Okay. So studying the previously recorded information about various other organisms, this steps comes later, but the first step is the collecting the actual specimen, then identifying and classifying it by referring to various information that we have already stored for the organisms that have already been identified and classified. Okay. Now we come to taxonomic aids. Now, so focus here that this was the third point, that information gathered is stored with specimens for future studies. Okay, this is the repository. Now, considering this point in mind, this is the same point. So certain procedures and techniques have been developed to store and preserve the information and the specimens. Now the repository of information, the storage of information, we need a place for storage, right? We need a place for storing all this information that has been gathered around about the specimens. Now certain procedures and techniques have been developed to store and preserve this information and the specimens that have been collected. Okay, first step was collecting the actual specimen. So we need a place, right, to store that specimen and to store and preserve the information that we have gathered about that specimen. So these places are known as taxonomic aids. Okay, these are herbarium, botanical gardens, museums, zoos, etc. We'll study more of the taxonomic aids, but just to give you a general idea, taxonomic aids represent certain places okay, procedures and techniques that have been developed to store and preserve the information and the specimens. Okay, so herbarium, botanical garden, museums and zoos are the places where the information about the specimens and the specimen themselves have been collected and stored. Okay, so these places are known as taxonomic aids. So taxonomic aids are these places. Okay, these represent the repository where the data is stored about the specimens, and the specimens themselves are also stored. Now, we studied about herbarium, botanical garden, museums, zoological parks in the previous slide. Then keys are also there, flora is also there, manual is also there, monographs and catalogs are also there. So these all are taxonomic aids. Okay, but for the purpose of this video, as I already told you, this video is divided into two parts. Okay, that is, two videos are there. This is video 1. In this video, we will be covering herbarium, botanical garden, museums and zoological parks. Okay, now suppose consider this scientist. Okay, let's call her Emma. Okay, let's call her Emma. Now she is walking through a forest, okay, one day randomly. Now she spots a plant. Now this is an unknown plant to her. She does not know. Okay, she does not know its name or what is this plant. So she, like, of all these plants, she finds out, okay, this is something, a different looking plant. I do not know about this plant. So this plant is unknown to her. Okay, now what will she do? She begins the first step. Okay, that is, she begins observing the plant, its characters. Okay, whenever you will come across something, you will first observe its characters, right? If I put an object in front of you, you'll first observing it. Okay, how does it look like, right? Now she'll collect this plant specimen. Okay, she'll collect the specimen of this plant and will take it with her to the places where various taxonomical aids are available in order to identify and classify this plant. So what she has done the first step. Okay, that is, she has collected the specimen, collected the actual specimen. This was basic characterization. Okay, she just observed the characters, but the characterization process will come later on when she will study about the detailed characteristics of this plant. Okay, now now we will study different taxonomic aids, starting with herbarium. Okay, now if she goes to a herbarium, herbarium represents the storehouse of collected plant specimens that are dried, pressed and preserved on sheets. Now what has Emma done? Emma has already collected the actual specimen. Now she must have collected this specimen and taken it to her laboratory. Okay, she would have done the process of characterization. Okay, she would have studied all the characters of this plant in detail, both internal and external characters. Okay, she would have noted down all these characters, both internal and external characters. So characterization process is done, collecting the actual plant specimen is done. Now she has gone to take the help of taxonomic aids in order to identify and then classify the plant. Now she can take the help of any taxonomic aid. But for example, if she goes to a herbarium, okay, what will happen? What is a herbarium? Herbarium represents a storehouse, okay, of collected plant specimens. Only plant specimens are present in herbarium, okay? Only plant specimens are present that are dried, pressed and preserved on sheets. Okay, so the specimens are dead plants because they have been dried, they have been pressed in between the sheets and they have been preserved on sheets. Okay, so this is how herbarium sheets look like. These are the various sheets present in a herbarium. As you can see, the plant is dried and pressed on the sheet. It has all its moisture has been removed because it has gone through the process of preservation on sheets. Okay, and uh, a label is present at the bottom of this bottom right corner of this sheet. We will study about the label now. What does the label contain? It collects the date, okay, date of collection, place of collection, the English, local and botanical name of the plant. It contains the family name of the plant. It contains the collector's name. It contains the habitat and a brief description, okay, if required, about the plant. As you can see, a description is also present here. So, a small description about the plant and its habitat, okay, important points are mentioned in this description. Otherwise, the date is present, place is present, English name is present, local or vernacular name is present, botanical name is present, family name and collector's name are present. So these are mandatory to be present on a label. What is the size of the herbarium sheet? It is around 41 into 29 centimeters square, or we can in inches it is 16.5 into 11.5 inches. 16.5 into 11.5 inches. Okay, this is the size of a herbarium sheet. This is 16.5 and this is 11.5. Now, herbaria provide a quick referral system for taxonomic studies. So, it would be very easy for Emma to, if she takes her plant to a herbarium, now she can take her plant to a herbarium to compare it with all the already known plant specimens that are present in the herbaria. Okay, and in herbaria, what happens is all the plant specimens are arranged as per a universally accepted system of classification. Okay, there are separate sections as per the system of classification. There would be a separate sections for the order, for family, for genus, okay, for division, for class. There would be separate sections and the plant specimens would be kept as per that classification system, so that it is very easy for her to go and if she suspects, okay, that my plant belongs to the family Solanaceae, so she would not go to some other family. For example, she would not go and refer to the family Malvaceae in the herbaria. There are separate sections, right, for different families, for different classes. So if she suspects that my plants belongs to the family Solanaceae, she would directly go to that family section, and then she would ultimately come to the lower levels, okay, kingdom, division, class, order, family. Then under this family she would refer to a genus, then she would identify the species. So this is how she would identify her plant and then classify it. Now, important herbaria are Royal Botanic Gardens Kew. In Royal Botanic Gardens Kew Herbarium is present. Okay, the herbarium name is Kew Herbarium, that is present in the Royal Botanic Gardens Kew. Central National Herbarium, Calcutta. Herbarium of FRI, Dehradun. Now, if Emma goes to a botanical garden, what will happen? What are botanical gardens? Botanical gardens are large-sized areas where plants of different types and from different areas are grown together for identification, for scientific and educational purposes. Okay, and it is an ex situ type of method. What is ex situ? Away from the site. Okay, they are not growing in their native place. They have been taken and grown in a separate area, a large sized area which is away from their native site. So a botanical garden contains native plants also. Okay, that is those plants that are belonging to that particular region. So for example, if Delhi has a botanical garden, it will comprise plants that are native to Delhi also. It can also contain exotic plants, okay, that is foreign plants. It can also contain rare and endangered plants as well. Okay, so all of these kinds of plants can be present in a botanical garden. So it is a large sized area, and it is an ex situ method of conservation where plants of different types and from different areas are grown together. From plants of different types and from different areas means both native and exotic. They are grown together for the purpose of identification. We can take our plant specimen and identify and compare, okay, is this our plant or is that our plant, by comparing to the specimens or the plant samples that are growing in a botanical garden. So they are used for identification, scientific and educational purposes. We can go on, students can go on educational trips in order to know about different kinds of plants, or they can also go there for recreational purposes. All right. So each plant, also in a botanical garden as well, each plant contains a label which contains the botanical name and the family name. Okay, these two things are present on the labels of plants that are present and growing in a botanical garden. And in a botanical garden, all the plants are living because they are being grown here. They are not being preserved by putting them in some preservative solutions. They are just being grown and given the environment where they can flourish. Okay, so living plants are present in a botanical garden. Now, famous botanical gardens are Royal Botanic Gardens, Kew in England, as already studied in the previous slide. So botanical gardens have herbaria also. Okay, a lot of botanical gardens have herbaria within them. That is why in the herbarium section, we studied about these botanic gardens because they have Kew herbaria. Okay, that is, herbarium is also present in them. Then Indian Botanical Garden, Howrah, India. NBRI, National Botanical Research Institute in Lucknow, India. Lloyd Botanical Garden in Darjeeling. These are some famous botanical gardens. Okay. Now, museums. Museums have collections of preserved plant and animal specimens for study and reference. Now, if Emma chooses to visit a museum, she would find dead plant specimens. Okay. Now, museum in general has dead plants and animal specimens as well. Both of these are dead, and museums contain both plant and animal specimens for study and reference purposes. Okay. So Emma will compare her plant specimen to the already present dead specimens that are present there, and that is how she will then compare and identify and classify her plant. If she finds a related plant or a similar plant, she would be able to find out the similarity and then would be able to identify that particular plant. Okay. And then these are the animals. As you can see, these are the stuffed animals that are present in a museum. All of these are dead. These are the plants. Okay, so these are dead specimens. Now, in museum, the preservation can be of two types. One is liquid and the other is dry method of preservation. In liquid preservation, as you can see in this picture, the plants are kept in certain solutions. Okay, this is not water, this is a preservative solution, which is known as formyl acetic alcohol. We can also call it as formalin. Okay, so this is a preservative solution in which the specimens are preserved. Okay, liquid preservation is done both for plants and for animals. Now coming to dry preservation. Dry preservation is also done for both plants and animals. Okay. Now, apart from the stuffed, in dry method of preservation, the animals are stuffed, right? As you can see in the second picture, this was liquid preservation and this was dry preservation. Okay, here you can see stuffed animals are present. And what kinds of animals are usually stuffed? Usually large sized animals and mammals are stuffed. Okay, large sized animals and mammals and birds are stuffed. Okay, and sometimes bones and skeletons of animals are also displayed in a museum. Okay, talking about insects, insects are killed, then they are pinned. Okay, with the help of pins, they are attached in a box, which are known as insect boxes. So insects are killed, number one, then they are pinned and then preserved in insect boxes. So that is how insects are preserved by the dry method. Okay, and then plants. Already talked about plants, that plants can also be preserved by dry method. Okay. So important museums. Important museum is National Museum of Natural History in Delhi. This is an important museum. Okay. And museums are usually set up in educational institutes such as schools and colleges. Okay. Because they provide the student a lot of information about different kinds of plants and animal specimens. So they are usually set up in educational institutes. So thanks to taxonomic aids, Emma finally identified her plant specimen. She found, for example, she found out it to be the Datura stramonium. Okay, she went through all the steps of the taxonomic studies. Okay, she collected her plant specimen. Okay, number one. Then she characterized it. Then she identified it, and then she classified it. Okay, and after classifying it, if it is an already known plant specimen, she would also be able to, she would also have been able to arrive to its name, that is the genus name and the species name. So she would have identified the genus and the species as well. Okay, so these are the steps she underwent to identify her plant. Now, if this was an unknown plant which had not been discovered by any other scientist up till now, then she would have given it a new name, that is a new genus name and a new specific epithet name, in order to identify the new species. Okay, so for example, X is the genus name and Y is the specific epithet. So she would have given it, this plant specimen, a new name because this had not been yet discovered by any other scientist. All right. Now coming to zoological parks. So zoological parks are also ex situ method of conservation away from site. Zoological parks are also known as zoos. Now what happens in zoological parks? Wild animals are kept in protected environments under human care. Okay, wild animals are kept in zoos. We all have visited zoos, right? What do we see there? We see various kinds of animals are kept in protected environments and human beings are taking care of them. Okay, we are giving them food. Okay, we are maintaining their habitat, right? We are washing them daily. We are providing them food. Everything we are doing from them. So we are providing them all the care. Okay, so that is why it is said that under human care. So how do zoos help us? They enable us to learn about the feeding habits of the animals and their behavior, their breeding habits. Okay, how do they breed? What are their food habits? So basically all kinds of behavior of a particular animal we can study in a zoo by observing that animal. So living animals are present obviously in a zoo. Okay, as you can see, different kinds of animals are present in a zoo and their habitats are replicated to the habitats they would have been present when they are present in their native area, in their natural habitat, in the wild. For example, a duck is present in the wild in a pond, so they would create a pond section where they would keep the duck. Okay, then this is a rhinoceros. Okay, then this is an elephant, and these are tigers. So accordingly, this is a kind of a grassland like area, so they have kept elephant in such kind of area. Then in a vegetation and bushes kind of area, they have kept tigers. So this is how they will replicate their original native area that happens to be present when they are in a wild location. When they are in the wild, they would replicate the same area in a zoo. Okay. The important zoological parks are National Zoological Park in Delhi. Okay. Now coming to PYQs, please pay attention here. The label of a herbarium sheet does not carry information on. What does it not carry information on? Date of collection, name of collector, local names or height of the plant. So we studied that date of collection is present on the herbarium label. Name of collector is present. Local name, English name, botanical name, everything is present. But height of the plant we did not study. Height of the plant is not present on the herbarium sheet. So what does the herbarium sheet not carry? It does not carry the information on height of the plant. So the correct answer is option number 4. Thank you for watching this video. If you have any feedback and suggestions, or if you found something useful, do let me know in the comments below, and like this video, definitely share it with your friends and subscribe to my channel. See you in the next video. Bye bye.